Opposed?
Yeah, it was great.
We went to NIU, Purdue, Cambridge, and we went there. That was a test of, there was a blizzard.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're gonna get a
Stop snowing in the afternoon.
That's what I understand.
We had to walk like 5 years.
Are you taking any time off?
Way past the library. And it was just,
Yeah.
We'll go.
I'd say twice as much. I wasn't terrible, but
Yeah. Were you at Assembly Hall or
Ex-lawyer.
Mackey? Purdue or the judge?
well, not Assembly Hall, but
March?
Assembly Hall's basketball.
Oh, you're talking about
Vacation.
Football. Oh, no, we went to the football.
I like that clock.
It was very slow.
I think
Yeah, it
you might
is.
have to do adjustments.
I think it's slow.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Wonder if Good Friday something.
He just graduated college.
All rise, I'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with the invocation by Jack Willite. Thanks, Jack.
Please pray with me. Father God, as we gather together this evening for our last council meeting of 2024, I'm reminded of Scripture in Romans 13, 6 through 7, and how it guides the relationship between people and their government. It calls the authorities God's servants who give their time to governing. Father, as we govern, I pray that we will, to the best of our ability, use the example of Christ to serve our community, that we will remain hardworking, considerate, and humble as we wrap up this year and prepare for 2025. I would also like to pause for a moment to remember the families and students of Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. Father, our hearts go out to them. We cannot even imagine the pain these families are going through. So we pray your comfort will be felt by them. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Jack. And now the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. For the record, note that Diane Quantz is absent this evening. And also appreciate the council's efforts to work on this new platform that we have, Civic Plus. I'll continue to do the best I can and to navigate through this. Bless you, Mike.
Thank you.
As we go through the meeting, and I'd also like to thank those in the audience for your patience as we work through this new platform. First item is the approval of the minutes from December 2nd. If there are
Having read the minutes, I approve, I believe they're all okay, and I move to approve.
Okay, a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Motion by Jerry, a second by Cindy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. I want to welcome everybody who is here this evening, especially a nice young man in the back. Yep, come on up here. You came to the meeting and introduce yourself. Yep, you got it, yeah. Your name and that T-shirt that you have on. What's that all about?
My name is Bo Goshert, and I'm a representative for the Mayors of Youth Advisory Council, and I'm on the Mayors Youth Advisory Council.
Good. We've just started that up, and we have about, what, maybe 15, 20 young people under
I think they said 19 this morning.
Yeah, 19 this morning, and learning about local government and trying to get this youth council up and running again. And Bo's one of those people, and this morning. We encouraged all of you to start attending meetings and that kind of thing. I really appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good evening. Thanks for sitting through this. Again, welcome to everybody that's here. Reports oral and written. We have a November fund report. Lynn?
The balances are staying pretty even. We'll get our distribution later this month, and we'll see how that goes.
Any questions for Lynn? The next item, I'm going to ask Lynn if she would. I can share a few comments, but Lynn, we have on the agenda the 1782 notice that came in. Would you be willing to highlight what's in that?
I will. I don't know where you want me to start, but it's easier for me to start on page 5 of 5. You want to?
It isn't showing up on our
Yeah, no
platform,
attachments.
but you could
Oh,
highlight
it's
what, no, it's okay.
I don't think I
You can highlight, it's
Well,
not coming.
Basically, it highlights all the funds that are subject to a tax rate and what that rate ended up being. So for the overall rate, it was, what was that?
Drum roll.
1.2060. I forgot
Yes.
to bring my readers.
So it's really, I would like to say, positive news. At 1.206, that rate is a little bit less than what it was last year. And if you remember in our budget books going all the way back to, Lynn has always done a nice job of giving us a history of the tax rate. It is at or just below where we were in 2014. So the goal in local government, my humble opinion, there's all kinds of factors, keep the rate steady and low today and over time. And this council, past administration, and your efforts this year, along with Lynn's office, our department heads, and other stakeholders, we are continuing to be very fortunate at keeping that rate steady, right around 1.206 this year, but it's always been around in the low 120s. So, anything else, Lynn?
Yeah, I'd just like to highlight that, so under the fire territory, they were under their max by $596,000, which we sort of expected. And on the city side, we were under the max levy by $234,000, $235,000. So what that means is that we could have collected that much more, which would have made our rate obviously higher. So we knew it was going to happen in the fire territory. It would have been nice to get those few extra pennies for the rest of the city too.
The chief here tonight, his efforts, again, the goal was, with your approval, increasing that max levy earlier in the year to stay way under it. And it looks like there's, again, a lot of moving parts here, but able to do that. And then on the city side, it was what, Lynn? Over 200,000
Yeah,
under? And so,
almost 235,000.
and so steady in maintaining what I would say is a low rate, especially if you go back 10 years, and it's been right there. Why is this? Again, a lot of factors, but a lot of it has to do with obviously assessments and changes in the market, as well as, I'd like to think, good decisions here, as well as economic development and growth, which is a good thing.
Yeah, our assessed valuation jumped a nice little chunk, so that helped with the
Right.
rate and the levy and everything, so. So you don't need to approve this or anything, it was just for your information, and I'll send in our response tomorrow with no changes requested.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just say that I'm really, really happy with this rate. in contrast to other cities, Warsaw's doing a really good job. I've seen some of them with rates at least 2.5%, 2.5%. I mean, that's more than double what we're doing. And I can only imagine what that would mean to the pocketbooks of our citizens. So I'm really happy it's where it's at.
Yeah, and this is just our rate. It doesn't include the school, the solid waste
Right.
district, the
Right.
library,
Right.
the township. So,
Thanks, Lynn, for that. And again, thank you for your efforts. That budget cycle that starts in the spring, early summer, and a lot of people, a lot of hard work, and here's where we are. So really encouraging as we head into budget cycle or budget year 2025. Thanks, Lynn, for your help there.
you're welcome.
No unfinished business. That takes us to new business, and it looks like, Donnie, you're gonna, I think, maybe help us here. We have a public hearing. Thank you. You may come up. Round two. Appreciate Donnie's efforts here, and thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Well, thank you all for having me here this evening again. So hopefully I am a familiar face at this point. So for those not aware in the audience, the City of Warsaw is applying for a construction grant that's funded by Community Development Block Grant Blight Clearance Program funds. This program is administered by the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs, or OCRA. For our grant application, we're required to have 2 public hearings, with this serving as the second one. The first one was back earlier in October, October 7th. During that first stage, we had to submit a proposal that was submitted on October 18th, and we had a follow-up meeting with our OCRA community liaison on November 14th to review the proposal and areas that we can, tweak in our application. So currently, that's where I'm at, is just working on revising our narratives and getting more increased letters of support from residents in the immediate neighborhood surrounding the Jomek Products site, located at 1600 and 1624 East Winona Avenue. So I've mentioned a number of public hearings that we are looking to achieve one of 3 national objectives. The one that we are seeking to achieve is the prevention and elimination of slum blight. Again, this was designated by a resolution on October 7th by the council, declaring the Jomek Product site as blight. Our need for this grant is we like to fund for demolition of those blighted buildings, remove the asbestos, abate that, and then using local funds, we'll seek to remove the storage tanks that are above and or underground. These buildings have been underutilized, and obviously it's no secret that they are deteriorating since operation ceased in early 2000s. The site conditions are very not safe and are hazardous for those passing by, even as a motorist. And getting letters of support, we've had a resident who even said that there was one day he commutes on it on a daily basis, and one of the times he was commuting on the streets that run adjacent to the site, that debris was falling off, and he had to swerve in oncoming traffic to avoid that falling debris. I really, hope OCRA, in reviewing the second round, sees the urgency of this, and that we can address these issues. For our grant application, there's 2 parties at play. City of Warsaw serves as the lead applicant, with Fellowship Missions being this subrecipient. They are the site owner of the property. And so the city will serve as a direct recipient, and they will administer those grant funds and then oversee any of the construction work that will be to take place. And later in the agenda, we'll present a resolution as well as a MOU between the city and Fellowship Missions, documenting that commitment. So I mentioned the proposed activities is to do the demolition of the blighted buildings and then treat the asbestos. And then local funds will be used to remove those storage tanks. So the total project cost to demolish the buildings, treat the asbestos, or abate the asbestos, and then remove those storage tanks. Right now, it's estimated to come to $694,943. The storage tanks, we are including this as local match. The city has submitted an application to the Indiana Brownfields program of their Petroleum Orphan Site Initiative. Justin Taylor had done that earlier this month. And so our first goal is to get this site accepted on the POSI program through Indiana Brownfields. If additional funds are needed, or if the state would not accept that site, the alternative, it's still using local funds, the alternative is the Environmental Protection Agency awarded the MACOG region with a Regional Brownfields Assessment Award about mid of this year, in May 2024. And so we do have approval from EPA that those funds can be used if the POSI program doesn't pan out. Those funds can be used to remove those tanks. We have a max grant award that's up to $500,000 for this program, and we are going to be applying for the full maximum of the $500,000. So I mentioned for our local match, we're required to have at least a minimum of 10%. Upon reviewing with our liaison, we did kind of score a little lower in our local match commitment. And so looking at ways to how we can increase that particular score for a local match, we are going to be committing the city and fellowship missions. We're going to be committing 28% of that local match from 3 sources. And the local match is of the total project cost, not of the grant award. So Fellowship Missions is committing $77,896 from either their operating savings or investment account. The city received Okra's approval a couple weeks ago from Okra that we can use the city engineers' force account services for professional engineering work as in-kind contribution, and that's in the amount of $22,247.10. And then the last source, as I mentioned, we are seeking to use state funds from the Indiana Brownfields Petroleum Orphan Site Initiative, or if that doesn't pan out, then we'll be using grant funds from the MACOG Regional Brownfields Assessment Grant Award from EPA. This amount for the removal of the tanks is estimated to be $94,800. And kind of closing out here the public hearing in my presentation, the last thing I wanted to mention is the low to moderate income impact to residents. We're not required to meet the low to moderate income threshold as typical for Okra projects, but we do still need to show, because the national objective is achieving slum blight, but we still need to show how this a grant award amount would impact the project service area, which in our situation is the city limits. And so based on the city limits, that low to moderate income percentage is 49.4%, in which case approximately $245,500 of that grant award will benefit the LMI and the city limits. And the last thing I just want to mention is our project will not result in any displacement of residents or businesses. And at this time, that concludes my presentation, and I welcome any questions from council or anyone in the audience.
Thanks, Donnie. Any questions for Donnie?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
Appreciate your patience. Part of the steps in the process, and can I say, Donnie, countless hours of work behind the scenes, it's important he comes and presents to the public for the record that we're aware of the efforts.
So did I understand that regardless of what happens, the tank, there's some storage tanks, and they'll be removed?
Yes, state law requires that the tanks be removed as well as the asbestos be abated before demolition can even begin. And with the removal of those tanks, EPA says if we are going to be using their funds, and I think regardless, we will need to do soil sampling to determine that level of contamination if it's present within the soils.
So the tanks will come out regardless.
Correct, yeah. And it's just, the source of paying for that removal is we're either gonna be using the Indiana brownfields or our EPA grant award.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just curious, do we know what kind of chemicals are present in the tanks?
We had two different phase environmental reports conducted in 2021, and I don't, off the top of my head, I can't recall specifically what the contaminants be. I think when we do the soil sampling, if awarded, when we're getting environmental clearance through the state, those levels will likely be determined.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'm sure we've heard before, but what's the timeline on this?
Well, the first thing would be is to get the dollars, be awarded this, and then we'll go from there, so.
Grant is due this Friday.
Oh,
And,
well, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
well, no,
All right.
to add to what Mayor was saying is the first steps in getting the funds, grant is due this Friday, and the state will review it from Friday through the end of January, or even the beginning of February. So about mid to end of February, we were told to expect an announcement of awards. And so if we're successful, we would be announced of those awards. And then if we are awarded, there's a number of administrative procedures that we'll need to go through before we can even issue bids for that demolition.
We'll all keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah. For the sake of this, for tonight, I won't go through all those details, but there'll be more public hearings that I'll be coming back, so don't get too tired of seeing me.
Donnie, thanks for your help with that answer. I'm glad you're here
Yeah.
tonight, so that's been good. Any other questions? Okay, this is a second public hearing, which means we will allow anyone to speak or ask questions.
And I do have a sign-in sheet for anyone in the audience to fill out before I leave.
That you were here and you've heard it. Good.
Yep.
Would anybody like to speak for or against? Would anybody like to ask any questions? Hi, Eric. Yeah, good. Yeah, you're here, so I'll pick on you. Thank you,
Now,
sir.
first off, thanks for allowing us to come back. I can't speak Donnie's praises enough. When Mayor talks about tireless hours, he has put tons and tons of hours into this because it's a shot in the dark. When you go in front of Maycog, it's a shot in the dark, and they've done an amazing job. We hope that the vote is to go forward with it. Everybody knows what it looks like, and just the eyesore that it is in our community, that we really want to get this thing down and green space it as soon as we can. And again, I go back, we take no credit for it. Donnie has done a great job, and so, selfishly, our vote is that it does go through because we believe it's just an asset. Even being a green space, it's more of an asset than what it is right now to the community. So, and then, so we just hope that you do push it through, and so we can go on to the next phase, and hopefully this time next year, it can be a nice green space versus what it is right now. So,
Good.
yeah. Any questions you guys have for me?
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, appreciate you coming. Would anybody else like to speak? Ask questions? Okay. If not, we'll move on. Donnie, I'll ask you, do you need any action or just a public hearing tonight?
The action is then the resolution.
Okay. Okay, which will be coming up later on the agenda. Thanks, Donnie, for that presentation. Again, anybody like to speak? If not, we'll move on. All right, we'll go to the next item on the agenda. Sorry. I've been advised to formally say, at this point in time, before we move on, that this formally closes tonight, this second public hearing. Thank you, thanks. Now we'll move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is Resolution 2021-12-02. Chief, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. The first resolution in front of you that I have tonight is for a transfer of $10,035.09 from our medical, dental, and life to our RCorp or CARES grant. This grant covers the expenses from our CARES Responder Navigator. So we are moving, right now, RCorp, and Lynn, you might have to help me on this, working with the clerk treasurer's office. Right now, the RCorp and CARES fund is in a negative balance because that's where we pay the navigators' salaries and wages out of that. So we are transferring these funds to keep that in the positive, so at the end of the year, it's at a 0 balance to help the clerk's office. Did I say that right?
You got it, and
Okay.
the money comes
Back,
from
yeah.
Bowen Center.
Yes, and then once we get reimbursed in January or February of '25, then that just goes back into our 2243 fund, I think is what Kelly said too. Because then that will be a positive, if I understood it correctly, or did I misunderstand her?
Yes, that would
check.
be correct, yeah.
Okay.
I had to think it through there first, yeah, that's correct.
Any questions for the chief?
So it's going to be reimbursed by, you say Bowen?
Yes, through the
Bowen Center?
RCorp grant.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
that'll go back into this medical, dental, life account,
It'll go back
2243.
into your operating fund.
Yes,
Yeah,
it'll
okay.
go back into the operating fund because it will be the next year's funds, so we can't add any more money to our budget for '25.
I move we accept resolution 2024-1202.
Motion to approve by Jack, is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second by Josh. Any further discussion? Any more comments, chief?
Nope.
I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, 6-0. Thanks, chief. It looks like, appreciate your patience here, running through the agenda. Resolution 2024-12-01. Thank you.
Yep, so this is another grant for our CARES. This grant is the FSSA grant, which pays for the community health coordinator. So the other CARES employee, so this is in the amount of $6,898.06 from the FSSA grant to our operating fund for her salaries and wages.
And this money comes from the state.
Yes. So there's two different grants that we use for CARES that sometimes they can be a little confusing, so.
Yes.
And welcome to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Good.
And the clerk's office, I do want to thank them because they've been a huge help for both these and understanding these grants because they can get a little confusing. So kudos to Lynn and her department for helping out on that. So
Thanks, Joel.
thank you.
I would move to approve, oops, goes the resolution here. Resolution, still getting used to this thing
Yeah,
here.
Yep, you're doing it.
Yeah. All right,
There it is.
2024-12-01.
I second that.
All right, there's a motion to approve and a second. Thanks, Cindy and Jerry. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it, 6-0. Thanks, chief.
Thank you.
Item number 4 on the agenda, Resolution 2024-12-03. Transfer to the rainy day fund. Lynn will ask for your help here.
So, state statute says that in any given year, you can transfer up to a certain amount of your total budget into your rainy day, of unappropriated funds into your rainy day fund. And during the pandemic, they gave us 2 years to transfer up to 15%, but at the end of this year, it goes back to 10%. Earlier this year, we got a supplemental distribution of our tax distribution, for our local income tax distribution of $1.2 million. So what I'm asking, and that was receipted into the general fund as all the tax, that distribution always goes into our general fund. So I'm asking if we can transfer $600,000 of that into our rainy day fund, just to sort of boost up our rainy day fund a little bit, because I like to save money, stash it away.
That discussion was, oh boy, a long time ago between the two of us, and Lynn recommending this, and I certainly approve it. But it has to come before you for your consideration and approval as well.
Where does that place our rainy day fund at this point?
Go back to your fund report and look at fund number 2236. And right now it's at 1.7 million. So that'll put us
2.3.
save
Lynn.
for a rainy day.
Lynn, for those who don't know, what exactly is the rainy day fund?
Good question.
I mean, like, what is it
It's-
used for, or why do we have it? I mean, I understand
You
it,
can
but,
use it for anything.
yeah, it's like an emergency fund, right?
Yeah, like an emergency fund. Obviously, you can budget that money every year, or you can do an additional appropriation if you need it for something, but it's just sort of just putting it away for a rainy day.
And I would assume that's totally unrestricted. Right. Good. Good place for it.
The supplemental distribution, Lynn has told me that you never know exactly how much it's gonna be, and with that amount, she felt close to half of it since we got it. And it was, we weren't sure what we were gonna get, it would be a good idea to put it in a rainy day fund. Did I say that right?
You said it exactly right, just like I told you.
There you go.
Because if it sits there, we're losing money. Is that invested in anything? Is it in a money market, or is
We don't have the rainy day fund money invested
it's
in
just sitting?
anything. Because if it was invested, then if you needed it, you'd have to get
It's
out
gotta
the
be liquid.
investment. And right now, we're doing our investments for a longer period of time
Mhm.
because of the interest rates. and
But
just-
even in like a money market or checking account, you're
1 month, yeah.
making something.
It's in the bank, it's making a nice little interest rate in the bank.
Okay, so it is.
I think right now our bank, I forget what our interest rate is, but it's.
It's
almost-
making something. It's not
making
just sitting
something,
there.
Yes.
Okay.
1.5%.
Well, with inflation at 2.6, 2.7, if it sits there, you're losing it.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
This one is real squirrely.
I'd make a motion, we approve Resolution 2024-12-03.
Motion to approve this resolution by Josh, is there a second?
Second that.
There's a second by Jurgen, is there any further discussion? I'll call for the vote, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it 6-0, thank you. Item number 5, the ARPA revised spending plan information and then the final approval. The attachment, as you open it, it's like upside down. There's that little arrow in the upper left. It's the fourth one. You can rotate the document over and you can actually see the numbers. It looks like Jack has been able to figure that out.
I'm not that smart.
That's like here, arrow right there.
That one?
Hit it 3 times.
Appreciate everybody's patience.
Oh, there we go.
Lynn, what are we looking at with this final spending plan, why are we looking at this?
So we have to have everything finalized by the end of this year. So this is our last meeting of the year, so that's why I waited till the last meeting before I presented this, or an updated one. And you have two sheets. The first sheet shows what the balance of each one of those categories were and how much we're putting towards that, and then what the balance is. So in doing this, earlier in the year, like neighborhood infrastructure, Dustin is using that money for Kincaid and Union Street reconstruction of the curbs and the sidewalks. And what we originally had set out for that amount, then when he got the final bids in, the bids were lower than what he thought they were gonna be. So we put some money from that towards the air quality and public spaces, and the same held true also for the mental health initiative. Captain Beam had asked for some money for some mental health things, a software program, and that didn't come in as much as he thought it was gonna be. Plus, he wanted some extra spending for maybe plane tickets in case an officer needed to go to counseling somewhere out of state. But no one has taken him up on that offer, so I put those funds down into the air quality too. And everything else pretty much stayed the same. So then the second page is in the final spending plan and the amounts for each category, and that's what we'll go with then. So we'll be in compliance with everything, and we have contracts for everything except for the air quality and public spaces, which would be the commitment, or an MOU, which would be the commitment. And we're going to be discussing that on Friday at the Board of Works.
Lynn has been a great help, not only on all of these, but tying everything off and directing dollars toward the air quality public spaces. I've talked to you about that. The issues related to this building and the costs associated with it. Aaron Ott has been helping as well. And Scott has been keeping a close eye on us. And it looks like Friday we will be taking another step toward remediation and trying to make this building right. And it's nice to know that we have just over $800,000 for starters to work on a very, very expensive project. So thanks, Lynn, for all of this. Are there any questions from the council on any of these line items?
Just want to verify, the 80,000 for nonprofit small business relief, that's for those two MOUs that we've got with Habitat and Beaman?
Yes, it is,
Is that
and
correct?
it didn't have that, the claim that you had down, it hadn't been entered in yet, so that's, but that was
Okay.
in there, but no.
That should be
It's
the
done,
next,
I got it out. but
sweet.
That's why I put the balances of a certain date, because I had to cut that off so I could get something ready for you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Lynn, we're looking at the revised spending plan and then the final spending plan. I'll ask you and/or Scott, a vote required on both.
Just on the final, the second sheet.
The
yeah.
final one is fine?
The top sheet was just with the balances, so everybody know that money's being spent out of there, and we still have ways to go on some other stuff.
So for your consideration, and if you would like to move to vote, it would be on the final spending plan. That would be the second document. I'll entertain a motion if there are no more questions or comments.
If there are no other questions, I move that we approve the final spending plan revised as of December 2024.
Motion by Jack to accept. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Second by Cindy. Any further discussion? Now I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. Guys have it 6-0. Thank you. next item is an MOU between the City of Warsaw and Fellowship Missions. Donnie, do you want to come up and help me with this one, the MOU, or not, without Justin here, what we're looking at, or no, you want to wait? Okay. Scott, do you want to help me out with this?
Sure.
Okay.
So we had to put together this memorandum of understanding, and the real key to this memorandum of understanding is we need the local match. And the Fellowship Missions has stepped up to provide the local match for the acceptance of the funding from the Blight Clearance Program. So that's what the MOU is. It was signed earlier by Fellowship Missions, and we're asking that the city enter into this agreement, that there's an agreement for Fellowship Missions to provide local match of $77,896, and they agree to cover any and all project overages that exceed that local match. So that's really pretty exceptional that Fellowship Missions is stepping up to provide the local match and anything that goes over the expected coverages that exceed the local match.
Help me out. This is something that Eric strongly desires. He's taking the responsibility. But Donnie, due to the way this blight clearance grant works, he has to work with the city of Warsaw to make it happen. And the MOU is basically him saying, I'm taking responsibility for this, appreciate the city being a good neighbor and helping through this very, very countless hours, Donnie, process. Is that, we good? Donnie's shaking his head. We good there?
Yeah, and so you guys know this. Every single community has blight and are dealing with these issues. And the governing bodies like you are meeting to try to challenge and tackle that. And so I think we're really grateful that this doesn't fall totally upon the local community to take care of this problem. And you know what's over there, and you know once this is completed how much of a change that will make there on Winona Avenue. So yeah, this is unusual. I think that there's something as successful as this program. So, but to move it forward, there needs to be a memorandum of understanding concerning the payment of the local match and covering any charges that may exceed the local match going forward. And again, it was signed earlier by Fellowship Missions, and we're just presenting it to you all for approval to accept their offer to provide the formal match.
Appreciate that. Any questions or comments?
How much time does Fellowship Missions have to raise their portion, the 77,000? Beautiful. Thank you.
Good answer.
Yeah, can't beat that one.
Good as it gets.
Thanks, Eric.
So we have backers that want to help us with this. So we have it now, but we would go and raise that and whatever else, whatever that gap is, it's covered. So.
Okay. Thank you.
If there are no more questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the MOU.
I would so move.
Motion to accept by Jerry. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Thanks, Jurgen. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Thank you. Donnie, now it's your turn. Resolution, again, 2024-12-04. This is a resolution. What do you want the council to consider with this document?
Yeah, it coincides with the grant application. Number one, it does two things. First is it authorizes me to hit the submit button either before or on Friday. So we need council's approval that you are wanting to move forward with submitting a grant application to Okra. The second thing is it outlines in my presentation, and then as well as with the MOU from Fellowship Missions that you all just accepted, it outlines the three different local match sources that are going to be tied to our project. And so again, I can just real quick run through those. They're listed in the resolution. But Fellowship Missions is committing the $77,896. The city engineer, we received approval from Okra to use his engineering time as force account in-kind contribution in the amount of $22,247.10. And then lastly is the removal of the tanks. The city earlier this month submitted an application to the Indiana Brownfields Petroleum Orphan Site Initiative to first seek that as state funds to remove those tanks. If the state does not accept that, then the alternative that's listed in the resolution is using the Regional Brownfields Assessment Grant Award that MACOG received from the Federal Environmental Protection Agency earlier this year. And this is in the amount of $94,800. So the total of this accumulates is the 28% of local match that we need, or it's roughly $193,000 that's stated in the resolution. So I'm asking for council's approval of resolution 2024-12-04 that authorizes me to submit the grant, and then as well as the local match sources and amounts that I've laid out before you. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Donnie?
Let's go get it. I'll approve resolution 2024-12-04.
I'll second.
There's a motion by Josh and a second by Mike. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Donnie, thank you, sir. Be careful going back home. Thank you.
And good luck.
Yeah.
Hit that button a couple times.
Next item is council appointments for 2025. I'll go to Council President Jack Wilhite. Jack?
Thank you. As you may know, council's current appointment to the BZA comes to an end this December 31st. Dan Smith, our current appointee, has sent us an email removing himself from consideration for the next term. He will finish his term later this month. I would like to thank Dan at this time for his service to our community and wish him well. It's people like Dan who help keep local government grounded and in touch with the community. So we have a position open, and I would like to submit for your approval retired Judge Dwayne Huffer. Dwayne will bring a wealth of experience and expertise to this position. He is a lifelong resident of Warsaw, living at 911 East Main, which he proudly said was his original residence, or is his original residence. He graduated Warsaw High School in 1966, Indiana University in 1970, and Stetson Law in 1974. He practiced law for 22 years, presided on the bench for 18, and is now retired. Dwayne has heard lawsuits challenging county BZA decisions, and he's very familiar with zoning laws. As you may know, the BZA is a quasi-judgeship. Its members balance variance requests and zoning ordinances. I believe Dwayne's experience in this area and his love for our community makes him uniquely suited for this position. And I'll open the floor for discussion at this point. If you have any questions or any thoughts?
I guess I just have positive thoughts about it. I've known Dwayne for many, many years. We graduated from high school together, so I think he would be an excellent addition.
I think we're fortunate that he's ready, willing, and able to step up. Very fortunate.
Yeah.
And again, I want to thank Dan Smith for his service.
The judge has been a constituent of mine and now Jurgen's for many years, and what I respect and appreciate about him, he's not afraid to call me. He's not afraid to tell me what he thinks. He's always respectful, but he's always to the point, and you understand where he's coming from. And I think back to his lengthy resume, lives on Main Street. That's a familiar street of mine. He will serve us well on the BZA. Thanks, Jack, and others for your work to communicate with him and see if he'd be willing to do it.
If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to appoint Dwayne Huffer as our next BZA representative of the council.
I would be happy to make a motion to appoint Dwayne Huffer to the BZA.
There's a motion.
And a second.
Appoint the judge and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Jack, thank you again. Work on that as council president. Any other matters?
Well, Mayor, you made it through the first year.
Yes.
It's
been a year already, hasn't
I'm still here, and they haven't chased me out of town
They haven't
yet,
chased
so
you
I
out
gotta go home tonight, yeah, so, yeah, I really appreciate your guys' efforts as, you know, the changes and, the old dog here, 24 years on your side of the fence, but, like I told the employees, thanks for all of you helping out, with that celebration last weekend. It's true, it's been a privilege, it's been energizing, and boy, oh boy, I am learning a ton. I go to school every day, and we were having fun with the chief, your efforts, and if we keep visiting Lynn, she's going to start charging us.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, here we go, yeah, so, but that learning experience has been, again, energizing and reminds me of the responsibility of being mayor, and also encourages me and reminds me to be so thankful for your efforts to do what you have to do on your side of the aisle or in your branch as the legislative body. And then again, back to Lynn, the burden that's been placed on her, and we talk about it really a lot. She has been so helpful and has been a very good teacher and willing to guide and direct not only me, but other department heads throughout the year. So Lynn, again, you and your staff, I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll let them know.
Good.
I may just do a public shout out to Mike Lohr for bringing another successful country Christmas concert to our city. Very well attended, and I think everyone really enjoyed themselves. So I know it's a lot of work for him, but he loves doing it.
He does an incredible job. Anything else?
Yeah, it might take just a moment. So, Jerry, how long have you been coming to these meetings?
How long? This is 13th year.
And Mike, how long have you been coming to these
Same, we came in at the same time.
And Josh?
5.
And Jurgen, I know, has completed your first year.
Yeah, but I've been coming to meetings on and off for the last 20.
And Jurgen, you were never afraid to talk to me either. So yeah, I was like that, yeah.
And Jack?
This is the end of my 9th year, so I'm into my 3rd term.
And Cindy?
13.
I think Jeff, this is 25, right?
Diane is 13.
Diana's 13. Lynn?
14.
And the reason I point that out is this. So I own a business in the city of Warsaw. I work in the city of Warsaw. I live just outside. I've raised my kids here in Warsaw. And I wanted to thank you all because I know you've come Monday nights, more than 20 of those this year, and you've done it for 13 years and 13 years and 4 years. Like, that's a big commitment to this community. And so as someone who's benefiting from that, I wanted to thank you for the time and the effort. You guys come prepared, and ladies, for these meetings, and I know it's not easy. I know Jurgen's probably figuring some of that out. This past year, we talk often after the meetings about things, but anyhow, I did want to personally thank you all for your hard work and the time commitment that you're putting into your community, so thank you.
Well, you've been coming a few years yourself now.
It's a little bit different for me. It's part of my job. I mean, but for you all, you're more public volunteers than me. I'm not really volunteering to be here. You all are paying me well to attend, but yeah, and I don't have to get elected. I just have to convince one
Put up with all
person
my
to be
phone.
here.
Why is
so.
Gross calling me again? That's usually what is, yeah.
Well, I think you had a good year.
Yes, we did.
And I think, you know, I see these financial reports. I think you're set up for a good year going forward. I think you've made some wise choices. You know, I saw the spending plan and the things that you've helped out with. And you've been transparent and you've been open. You listen to people when they come in here and ask for your help. And I think you do a good job of trying to help them do that. You know, if more people came to these meetings and asked for more help, I think there'd be more people helped. But that's a special skill y'all have, and I thank you for being away from your families these evenings and helping out your community.
If we didn't want to do it, we wouldn't. It's a labor of love, I think, be fair to say.
Ideal to have Bo, one of the members from our MIAC, young people in the community here. And this morning at 7:30, you heard one of the individuals that was a guest speaker say at times it may seem like this is boring. Do you remember that comment? And maybe even tonight, but I'm telling you, millions of dollars tonight have just moved. We've just finalized a 2025 budget, which gets into tens of millions of dollars. A tax rate has been set for the residents in this community, which will have a huge impact on their lives going into next year. And so it goes back to what Mike has said, the privilege. It is energizing, even though you can't always see it. It is happening before, during, and it will continue after these meetings. And again, I appreciate your patience, the learning. I want to see it. I want to, how is it working? And what could you do about it? So I think appropriate you showed up. I didn't know you were going to show up tonight to finalize and finish up the year, especially not only all the comments, but Mike's comments there at the end. So, all right. Any questions or comments from the visitors that are here? Thanks for coming.
How do I get that ringtone?
Mayor, I'd just like to add, this is also my first year, end of my first year, and I remember the discussion we had when I first filed that it's going to be a learning experience, and there's no doubt about it. It has been. I wasn't overwhelmed by the procedure because it's similar to what I did on the school board, but I am very impressed with everything that Jack does, what you do, what all of us do. Lynn, you know, it's just overwhelming when I see everything that goes into the process, and that made it very rewarding for me. Whitney, Stacy, and Montana have been super helpful. You've been very helpful, Jack, everybody here. So thanks for welcoming me and making me feel part of it, and very much appreciated.
Thank you.
You know, since we're passing out kudos, I'd like to thank all the department heads and and the employees. We had the city Christmas party this last Friday, and it was a great time to get once again to know each one of the employees that work for the city, and to express our thanks to them. So I just want to do that again, only publicly this time.
It really was a joy at the party because all of the council members showed up.
Yes.
Mayor, Lynn, everybody was there, and it was so nice to mix and mingle with everyone.
I think the efforts by this board with the employee handbook, the updates there, as well as our It's been really positive.
It's been very positive.
It's been
I was
positive.
reminiscing today about
been a lot of things.
how much we accomplished this year.
Yeah.
From the employee handbook, infrastructure projects, building projects, millworks, GATKE, just to name a few, expansions all over the city, businesses coming in. And I think we've laid the groundwork for even bigger and better going forward. Next year is going to be
Yes.
top this year, I think. I
Yes.
know it is.
The projects that you mentioned, I had lunch today with Jeremy Skinner, and he said, I'm going to take some time off here, and I think he's doing it because he knows where we're headed.
Well, it's well
He
deserved.
has, yeah, he's done an excellent job, and we have a lot of projects coming our way, so more work to be done, but it is exciting for a city our size to have these opportunities, and some of the struggles you have because of it. It's just, it's a big deal. And again, I appreciate your efforts.
Well, I spoke earlier, you've come more than 20 times on Monday nights, but it's not limited to that. You're meeting people on the street, you're talking, and many of you serve on other boards, redevelopment, fire territory, and you're on committees, you're looking at applications for nonprofit funding. Like, it's, to do the job well, it's a big investment in time from all of you, and so, again, I'm very appreciative of it.
Can't believe it is December 16th, the last meeting. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thank
80
you.
years ago today, for being the student of history that I am, 80 years ago today was the beginning of the Battle of the Bulge. For anybody who may be interested. And there's one in town who was there still,
That is amazing.
Bob Gast.
Charlie Garner, too.
Wow.
True.
Yeah, they gave him a special award at the country concert.
Oh,
there.
thanks.
Battle of the Bulge.
Yep.